Okay, this is Dr. Jason Dean, Revolution Network, and I am here today with Dr. Q. Now, I am setting this up so you don't actually see his face, and I'm going to go in here and make sure we are going live because of the way the software works. I'm trying to do just audio, but let's see here. Dr. Q, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good. Can everyone hear Dr. Q? Let me know if you can't. We're going to dive right into the interview. And if anyone has a problem hearing the audio from Dr. Q on this, then just let me know. I'm looking at the comments here, but we're going to dive in and go from here. And hopefully it works. If it doesn't, we'll fix it later. How does that sound? All right, Dr. Q, this is Dr. Jason Dean. First of all, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Awesome.
Absolutely. Good. It sounds like everyone can hear you, which is wonderful, and they can't see your face. We're protecting you a little bit here. Can you give everyone a background on not necessarily who you are, but how you ended up in this world and a little bit of your story?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a double boarded physician in pediatrics and a subspecialty in pediatrics. And I was always questioning the system a little bit. Certainly one of those doctors that hesitated to prescribe medications, reversed a lot of diagnoses. So that always got me in trouble with the mainstream, with the general high output, normal doctor productivity model that I was placed in. And then, like I think millions at this point of other people, around January, I stumbled upon the Great Awakening, and the Great Awakening is just so much more than politics, and so much more than human trafficking, and so much more than, I mean, you have it on your show. It goes pretty deep, but I learned pretty quickly that, number one, I don't believe any doctor can practice medicine without doing harm, minus you. If you're a naturopath or if you're doing other stuff, that's the real medicine. So I basically realized within about a month that the medicine I was practicing was just actually the opposite of what I wanted to do. It was creating more harm than good. One of the days, one of the biggest moments that I remember is on this journey was sitting in my office, locked in our office, all the doors closed because everyone's afraid of COVID, including the doctors and nurses. And I'm sitting there, and I just happened to stumble upon an anti-vaccinating website, and was reading some of the inserts and all this stuff that I thought was crazy. And so I actually spent the time to read it, and my mind was blown. I mean, I couldn't. And essentially, within 5 minutes, I realized that none of our patients are truly consented.
Wow.
And I admit it in my book. I mean, it's pathetic and it's sad, but that was the first time I read all of the vaccine inserts. And it's very easy to figure out that they're absolutely horrible. They tell us. And so that was a pretty quick, I mean, I left my job probably 2 or 3 weeks after that, because I think it's not only vaccines, I think it's medications. I think there's side effects in medications that are purposely put in there, that create havoc in children. And so I went from that to here. So it was 0 to 60 in 6 or 7 months. I'm pretty with you on everything you talk about now. So I went from a very closed-minded doctor to here in about 7 or 8 months.
Your transformation was really fast then, because based on me kind of stumbling upon you, and then I didn't just stumble upon you, because as soon as I found you, it seems like you were a firestorm of tweets and a firestorm of communication, and you reached out to me. And I was like, wow, this guy kind of came out of nowhere, which I've been following this for some time. So usually if someone's out there, I've at least seen a tweet here and there, but you dove right in. Like, was it basically just a big consciousness thing for you of like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore? Or, take us through those mental gymnastics.
So, I mean, first, I mean, I think you go through the 7 stage, and first it's like disbelief. And then I decided to do the research. So I
Right.
did the medical research, and the medical research is so easy to do. It's so obvious to someone that is trained that there's an evil thing going on, and at the same time of the COVID narrative going on, which was a complete farce. I mean, I started to question masks, and they're telling us it's airborne, yet they're still bringing patients in. So I was already creating trouble in my office because nothing made sense. Nothing made sense. This is bio. This is middle school biology. My kids know this stuff better than, they're like, well, I mean, if it's airborne, it's everywhere, right, Dad? Yeah. So why are we bringing patients in? Maybe we should all be locked in our houses then. Oh, no, we can bring patients. We'll just put masks on. So I, I'm a pretty common sense guy. I've never been one to just read through the books and stick with the protocol. So that stuff, once I figured that out, I realized, wow, I'm on the wrong side. So once I realized I was on the wrong side and I got in this profession to help people, I mean, I went, like probably many of your listeners, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, just reading, researching. And so the more I found out, the more it resonated with me. And, and just, I know it's hard for some of the people that have been in this for such a long time, but I think that the elevation and the ascension that people are having now is so intense. It's like I got a crash course in all this stuff, and here I am 7, 8 months later, totally understanding everything you're talking about. And so part of what I wanted to do was not just learn, I wanted to fix it too.
Right.
Um, so part of my path that I feel like I've been placed here to do is to be one of those guys that can still have the BS degrees. Yeah, I have a medical doctorate, I have a master's degree, most of which means very little to me right now,
Right.
except to pull in like the average Joe. So now my purpose is to pull in the average Joe and link him to people like you and people that know more than me on this stuff. But I'm starting to be able to learn how to deconstruct the old system, figure out how they were screwing us. And I think my purpose going forward is to eventually speak in person on explaining what they were doing, which is so evil. They're gonna need someone from the inside who is doing it to explain it. It's so this is not, it's not side effects. This is purposeful evil, purposeful harm, purposeful disease, purposeful autism, purposeful bipolar disorder, purposeful, I mean, everything. And so to be that bridge between the old medicine, which I really believe is 99% corrupt, to what we need to go into in the future. And God just put me on a path because I've landed in the laps of so many cool people. Um, I can text with Judy Mikovits, who's like she's like I don't have any celebrities anymore, but she's my celebrity.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know how I got a hold of her, but one night I did, and we can text. So if I have a question, I ask her, and the stories she tells are just insane.
Wow. Now I have a question for you, and part of my job I felt so far in diving into this. I mean, I've been doing this now for years, but obviously everything blew up 6 months ago, and I even took it down a different path. But what I felt was that as this started happening, I actually got more optimistic because I believed we were going to come out of this thing finally. We were actually going to like rebuild our world the way it's supposed to be. Now,
Yeah.
the reason I want to bring this in up is because I feel like part of my journey now is, like you just said, is literally bringing people together. I've been banging on medicine, and when I say that, I want everyone to be very clear on what I'm saying here. I had to explain this on Saturday when I spoke in Fort Pierce as well. As I've been banging on the medical industrial complex. I will only bang on MDs who either lie about it or are completely brainwashed and they won't wake up to it. I have a lot of MD friends who are wide awake, and I consider them amazing physicians. Now, when you went through medical school, medicine, because you obviously woke up after you got out, is it just a whole sales job in there? I mean, obviously, I know the majority of people going into medicine want to help people.
Right.
Is there anybody that wakes up, like, I'm assuming not waking up in medical school, but like, what was that journey like for you? I mean, were you just totally kind of bought and sold into the system because that's where you came from?
Yeah, yeah. And so that is exactly, I mean, you hit on exactly what I cover in my book. So part of my book I'm writing so that someone, say they're newly awakened or in the first 6 months, and they're like, wait a second, this can't all, I mean, these, my doctor's not a bad guy. And so my book explains, because you got to go back. I was, 23, 24 years old. I was just a kid going
Right.
into medical school. And so I do explain how medical school brainwashes you. And it is a very good, deep brainwashing experience. I mean, so from day one, you are just put through the rigors. The competition is unlike anything I think probably out there, because these are the best of the best. And then they round the tests down so that someone's always failing. They put a body in front of you and have you mutilate it, which is just completely satanic, I think, from my perspective at this point, for people that have never cut a piece of meat or aren't butchers, and have them mutilate this body over 6 months. And then I can tell you from day one, people find this like crazy, why I always bought into the CDC and the vaccines and the FDA, but we have 4 years of courses. This is like probably, 3 different college degrees, 4 different college degrees packed in one. I mean, that's the amount of hours that we had. Never, ever did we study side effects of medicines or side
Really?
effects of vaccines. No, we studied interactions.
But no side effects.
No,
Wow.
that's not tested. I mean, it might be on a chapter that you read, but it's not tested. It's not tested. And vaccines, I can tell you, it's 0%. So you are supposed to believe that vaccines are. The feeling I got going out of medical school and then going into residency is that if the CDC and FDA approve something, then it has already gone through more rigors than I could ever do myself as one person. So you are to just accept it. And so
Wow.
I did. I didn't start to learn about the side effects of medicines and all this stuff until I started practicing and just seeing it myself. Seeing kids placed on Singular, which is like, water to pediatricians, allergy symptoms, asthma. Oh my, I mean, it's rampant. And I can tell you over the last 5 years, I have seen an increase of this generic crap medicine coming from China, where these kids get put on it for allergy symptoms and they are having night terrors, their personality changes. I mean, it makes them bipolar. It makes them exhibit autistic symptoms. They go from, I mean, and the parents tell me, that's when I figured it. I'm like, holy, really? The parents go, yeah, we started it. He was an angel. And then 5 days later, he's a demon kid. And so
Wow.
I started to realize that a lot of medicines do this. But yeah, I mean, we're just, in my book, I describe it. It's sort of like medicine in a lot of ways is like Hollywood, where you get, you're down lower on the rung, and you have all these A-list celebrities who are the Faucis and all the people that you're supposed to listen to. But then, the B-list actors and the producers and the executives, everyone ahead of you that has the keys to your career or the keys to you feeding your family is telling you all these lies 24/7. And if you deviate from that, you get punished. So, you deviate from that. For example, the flu vaccine, Obamacare wrote in the bill, doctors are now to be paid not just based on productivity, but based on, 20, 10, 20, 30% of these um, other means of measuring, which would be patient satisfaction, maybe one of them. But one of them is flu vaccines. And so if you didn't give the flu vaccines and you were reviewed at the end of the year, you could potentially lose part of your pay. So, I mean,
Wow.
it is just drilled into you 24/7.
That's it. Do you guys ever go over anything in toxicology? I mean, do they touch on toxicology? Because I mean, obviously, from a natural standpoint, one of the biggest things we focus on in most in the natural health field of some kind is like at least recognizing that there's a toxicology aspect to health.
No.
No, and even with all the medication, even with all the medications that is,
I don't even really know what you're talking about. No,
so like heavy metal poisoning,
no,
chemical poison, anything like that.
no. I mean, come on, we're giving fluoride to our kids. I had no idea, and so not only did I not know about that, I do now. Not only did I not know about that, of course I didn't know that there are natural cures to toxicology. Of course I didn't know that there's food, health, minerals, whatever supplements that you can take to reverse these things. I mean, I would say those types of things that you studied for years, maybe, maybe you could find a one lecture in a year on something like that. I don't know. Like our nutrition, we had a nutrition, a 1 credit nutrition class, which is total, BS. They didn't go into any of this stuff. So we're totally devoid, but then our time is 100% taken. It's not like they gave us a lot of free time to go and explore, natural remedies or anything.
Right. Now, did they ever discuss, because I remember in chiropractic school, even because chiropractic school is not perfect by any means. Obviously, there's a lot of good stuff. There's also a lot of junk that's been brought in. Medicine is definitely trying to infiltrate there as well. But I remember getting a study in our nutrition class towards the end, and it was actually a study regarding, I think it was like lowered cholesterol and like orange juice. And obviously the study was, hey, drink more orange juice, get lower cholesterol. And somebody had gone to the back of the actual study faster than the teacher got there. And the study was actually sponsored or paid for by Tropicana. And so the student says, hey doc, is it a problem that Tropicana is, funding the study that says more orange juice handles cholesterol or whatever it is? And the doctor actually said, no, that's not something we really look at. Now, in your world, you guys had a lot of obviously peer-reviewed studies. Was there anybody ever questioning the fact that like pharmaceutical companies are running these things and then pushing out marketing peer-reviewed science? And I say peer review with quotes, hand quotes. Was that ever brought up at all, or anybody pointed out?
I don't remember it being brought out. I mean, all this stuff that I'm discovering now seems so ridiculous and obvious. And I wrote about that in the book. That was a big chapter of like, okay, how did they lie? I mean, and how did they get away with this? Yeah. I mean, all the drug companies do the studies.
Right.
All the drug companies do the studies. And then this is and then they do the study and they cut the study off whenever they get a point where they see a benefit. Or on the flip side, if they do a study and they see that there's side effects, it's easy. All they have to do is withdraw the funding, and the study's in the garbage. So you'd never know about it. So then it'll just go on to another set of people or another set of doctors or offices that'll do it. They will manipulate the study in some way to make it look like there's a benefit, and it's easy to trash a study. So no, we didn't dissect that at all. We were, we were pushed. I think at some point that was the public was waking up to that at one point, but they blamed the doctors. Remember that whole, they're paying the doctors, they're taking them out to lunch, which they were.
Right.
But that's not the big problem. The big problem was the pharmas are doing the studies and they're manipulating the studies to make doctors believe that these drugs are good drugs.
Right.
So yeah, were they bribing the doctors? Yeah, sure. So that, that type of ethics were taught, how to keep pharma and medicine separate. So yeah, we can't accept pens, or we can't accept a lunch or whatever. But it was smoke and mirrors. That was to distract us from the fact that the pharma was paying the CDC and the FDA to get these things passed through. So
Wow.
no, we didn't know. I mean, when you say, when I talk to you, it seems foolish. I mean, I know it seems absolutely foolish, but and I guess the reason I woke up so quickly is I've always had this in the back of my mind, thinking, wow, where's the university studies? The totally unbiased, supposedly unbiased university studies. Why are these drug companies allowed to pay doctors' offices to do
Right.
studies?
Right. Now,
It doesn't
now,
make,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah, no, I just so I've always questioned it. Um, I just never knew. You know what it is? I think they got so big and so evil that as a doctor, your cognitive dissonance kicks in and you're like, wait, it can't be that evil because that's career ending, right? Just like mine. You can't, I don't, I mean, I'd love to talk to any of your doctor friends. I mean, I don't know, unless they're just sitting in the office and talking to patients and not prescribing any medications. If they're prescribing medications, they're still on the gravy train. They're still asleep.
Yeah, the only MDs that I actually know very well are ones who have either gone the natural route or are no longer in practice, basically because of what you have gone through, is the fact that they can't do it anymore, kind of thing. And then I know a couple who are in birthing and baby
Yeah.
in the baby business, but they're on the more natural side of it. They still give out some medications, but those are also the ones that know about the medications, and they do as little prescribing as they possibly can because they're at least half awake. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's a messy world, and yeah, there's only so many that go around. I mean, again, only so many friends who are like that understand that. Now, my next question for you, and I'm going to tread lightly on this, not because I'm scared of the subject, but I want to protect you. I'm also going to protect myself, but without naming the name of the quote unquote pathogen. Is
Yeah.
it possible that a pathogen that starts with the letter V is real, or are we talking about exosomes
Right.
as waste from the cells? Because my understanding is that this thing couldn't technically exist. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's been, uh, just when you think well, not know it all, but when you think you're really awake, that was something I went down a couple weeks ago. So there's Koch's postulate, right?
Yep.
Anything that causes a disease should be able to be isolated, grown, and then re-injected and cause the same disease, essentially. So that V thing has never been isolated and grown outside of a cell. Um, so yeah, so I'm currently pretty well convinced that. Well, here's my own theory. I'm convinced that there is nothing, um, on a surface, or that you can just get it in the air. You can't get V's from just going about your normal everyday life. This was confirmed by Judy Mikovits. I said, hey, here's the deal. This is blowing my mind because it basically flushes half my education down the toilet.
Totally.
So I asked her, I said, are these real? Are these things real, or are they injected? Or are they part of us? And she said, yes, they are injected. Um, the big companies, the big governmental entities spend decades and billions of dollars figuring out which ones to inject you with. Okay. So that so the flu, influenza, the yearly influenza shots you get actually give you the influenza. So but that's not just it. That would be too kind. There's stuff in there that gives you chronic disease. There's animal byproducts in there. There's RNA from different animals. There's a cocktail of things in these, in the V word that we get yearly, that make you susceptible or cause illness. And probably the number one illness it causes is cancer. So it's unlikely that any of us would have cancer. If we went back 50 years and stopped all this, and we'd probably have 1 to 5% of cancer. So I agree. I don't think they exist, and they're not these little devils, floating around on surfaces, and we get them. I do agree with the exosome theory. The only thing that I figured out, which again, I'm big common sense. So people like to go like full on, way out there, like no way, there's no communicable disease that has the V word in it. I mean, we exchange cells,
right?
I think they're in cells, and I think they replicate within cells. And I think, if you kiss someone or if you drink after someone, it's not that there's a particle outside of your cell sitting on the cup. It's that you just got someone's, you got cells from their mouth, and you're ingesting that.
Right.
But I also believe in kind of what you're saying, is that when you're sick and toxic and eating chemicals and poisons in your food and everything else and medicines, that your body produces this stuff.
It's trying to get it out. The body's smart.
Trying to get it out. And that's where you come in. People that know how to practice natural medicine is, how do you detoxify these things? How do you get your body back to a better balance? I mean, I can tell, I'll be the first one to say I have no idea. I'm just learning how to do that, and I'm trying to do it myself and with my kids. But that's the new medicine. It's not, oh, you're sick, let's give you this pharmaceutical medicine to get you better. No. That will make you more sick overall. Right.
Right.
So I agree. It's sort of like, in the wintertime, that was another big, easy common sense. In the wintertime, what do? We all stay inside. We don't get sunlight. Everyone has vitamin D deficiency. Probably everyone in the United States. And that's probably a major reason, vitamin deficiency and inactivity and eating crap and drinking crap.
Right. Well, it's funny because from a vitamin D standpoint, I'm good friends with a guy named Morley Robbins, who I'll connect you with. He'd love to talk to you, but he hates vitamin D. He used to work in the hospital system, and now he works in natural health. And it was an awakening thing for me as well, because the liver is supposed to produce these things naturally. But the problem is, with medication, the liver gets totally backed up and clogged. And so people are like, well, why am I not showing for these hormones? Well, the liver that's supposed to be helping create all this stuff is completely toxic. Of course, it's going to stop making certain things. So it's very fascinating. And then people are like, well, why am I getting a cold, or why am I getting this problem every year? Well, because your body is shutting down. You're not going to the bathroom. I mean, I actually stopped worrying about viral, bacterial, different types of pathogen, things like that. Once I realized, get the actual bowel and the channels of elimination open, because when you do that, these pathogens tend not to kick back up again.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's the cool. So I'm with you on the hopeful. I'm not the doom and gloom, because that's just not where we're going. This is all going towards such amazing, incredible things. But that's, from what I'm reading and what I'm feeling, is it's like we have all of the cures already. Not everyone knows how to do it. Some people do, but it's certainly not mainstream.
Yeah, take me down that road. I want you to go down that road for me, because obviously I'm reading your book right now. I have not finished it. It's phenomenal. It's really, really well done. I appreciate the info you're willing to put out there, but I love the fact that you obviously have seen the light, which is fantastic, because the cover shows you seeing the light. But what do you see coming out of this? What do you see? Where do you see us going from this standpoint in the Great Awakening? From obviously any standpoint, you're allowed to put out any information you want, whether it's medical or not. But also, obviously, the medical route. What do you see from a healthcare standpoint?
Oh man, so healthcare, I see. Well, I see what, first of all, what the naturopaths do. I think that, so the new medicine is going to be all natural medicine. I think, common sense, if it needs to come from the earth, it needs to be vegetable, herbal, I think all the cures are there. That's one big arm. I think people need to stop taking any sort. So the pharmaceutical industry is going to implode. I see the CDC being dismantled, the FDA dismantled. They're corrupt, not just corrupt. They're criminal organizations, as far as I have seen.
Right.
And so then we start getting into really cool stuff like, sound frequency healing, light healing, light therapy. I mean, I tweet this all the time. I don't know if I wrote it in the book, but I tweet it all the time. I'm like, the hippies were right. The hippies were right. Like I'm friends now with these people that were so supposedly so far out there, and they're using gongs and sound therapy, that we just laugh at. But they're right. These people are right. So we're heading medically, because that's medicine. So I think medically, and this is where I hopefully can be the bridge where I can pull people towards this, saying, no, this is not crazy talk. I would basically say anything that you read that's, was supposedly new age, put down as new age hippie stuff. I'd say there's a lot of it, if not the majority of it, that is real. And then the real research can begin into dissecting those like really well. The frequency healing, the herbal medicines, and light, UV light. So my prediction here, this is like a little POTUS prediction. Now, how he tweeted the other day, he said the therapeutics were sent from God.
Yeah.
I think he's talking about sun and UV. Because the sun is, from God.
Yep.
UV light therapy, by the way, it's already out there. There's Arab countries that have already purchased the equipment. I found it because I bought the stock in one of these, where the UAE met at the White House and a week later purchased, 100,000 of these units. It's really cool, where they put them in rooms where the UV light just disinfects everything in like 10 minutes. Right. And they're going to put those in public spaces. And still, we're not talking about viruses. We're talking about bacteria. But imagine going into a hospital room that has been sanitized like an OR, better than an operating room, with these devices. And that's what's coming. So, Trump doesn't say, it's so funny. He doesn't say all of his things that he got slammed about the UV light or injecting stuff. It's all coming.
Right. It's actually so funny. Over the weekend, I was out and about, and you've been listening and watching the Jason Q interviews that I've done, and Jason talking some stuff. And some people, I get some messages. People are like, well, he's really crazy. And I don't necessarily believe it all, but I appreciate listening to him and things like that. And he came out with the simulated sun. And then I started reading about the black sun, which I'd known a lot about, but I went deeper into that. And then, Trump starts talking about different things with light. And then I had a very evangelical Christian over the weekend talking to me, and they said, what's interesting? I bet you that the source is actually the sun. And I looked at her, I just smiled, and I went, welcome to the awakening, where you're going to find out, because President keeps talking about light and light and light and the storm. And I'm like, wait until you find out that the sun, you haven't even really probably seen the actual sun. And I'm sure you've gone down that rabbit hole, right?
Oh, I've been down that, because this is an easy one. If you think the sun, why are there there's patents? There's hundreds of patents for simulated sun. So, if someone wants to explain to me why there's hundreds of patents and pictures of simulated sun makers, I still don't get how they do it, but I know there's patents that you can Google it. Right. That's an easy search. And so, have they covered up the true cure to all this crap that we're going through for thousands of years? I don't know how long. No, I'm there. So the tough part with Jason Q is he offers so much information that if you just take it all in, it might seem crazy. You just have to take one thing at a time, and if you don't understand it, then you'd go and do the research.
Right. Yeah,
you know?
let me tell you, uh, when I did the first interview with him, I was like, because I talked to him on the phone, and I was like, whoa, he was like when I first started off in health, which was like you had so much data in your
Yeah,
mind, and you knew that every single piece of that data needed to be told to the people to wake them up. And so you
yeah,
just want to brain dump because it's all there. And it's funny because he told me on offline, he's like, my mom said you did a good job of keeping me in line. I'm like, no, you don't need to be kept in line. He's actually getting more and more comfortable now of being on camera. So he's able to like nail it down now. But it's
yeah,
funny because I was exactly where he was, and the fact that he's diving so people don't realize, and you've seen this from a health standpoint, is when you have your awakened moment or awakened moments, whether it's in health or it's in, military industrial complex or big pharma, it doesn't really matter. Like when you have those moments that forces you to be obsessed to know the
yeah,
deeper and deeper truths, you start recalling stuff. But you gain this big balloon of information, and you
yeah,
just want to tell everybody. I mean, you've experienced that, right?
yeah, I have. I mean, and this is what I'm good at. And this is why I think everyone has a place. This is not his place. My place is to take bits and pieces of that and dumb it down so that people can understand and then gradually bring them to the point where he's at. It's like say in medicine. Okay.
100%.
That's my, but that's not his purpose. His purpose is just to get it all out there. We can dissect because it's
Right.
on the internet. We can dissect it for the next 100 years if we want to.
Right.
But I can tell you everything, and I'm pretty new in this. He rarely says something that doesn't resonate with me. I mean,
Exactly.
and he rarely says something that I haven't come across. I just haven't deep dived like he did.
Right.
And so
No.
I would say part of the awakening for people that are like, and it's tough, if you're a Christian, and I am. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I am insofar as that I believe Jesus is my way. But
Sure.
I've taught my kids for years. I say, hey, listen, and that may be our way. It doesn't mean it's the way.
Right.
And I'm sorry, Christians, it's not. There's billions of people out there that it's not their way, and it's not going to be their way. I think there's many ways. Why would God put one way? I think we have different ways to an enlightenment, but He's my way. So, but that rabbit hole alone. I mean, I think it's blatantly obvious. If you, as you awake, you realize most things have been tainted. So if you think that the Bible has not been tainted, I don't know who you think has been protecting it. I mean, it's been the deep state that's been printing it for the last 1,000, 2,000 years, right?
That is so well stated.
So you have to again use, when we say use your discernment, it's just you have to think about what you feel is right and what you feel is wrong, and um, so yeah, I think that he does an amazing job with all that, and you gotta take it all in and then break it down and do your own research.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna as we close up, I'm gonna bring this up because I think it's hilarious. Is I have not confirmed this, but somebody just wrote a message saying that it's possible this was tweeted by either the president, I don't know because I haven't seen it, or it was tweeted by somebody else that the president of the United States is going to be leaving Walter Reed Memorial today at 6:30, which I don't know. That's going to blow everyone's mind because how did the president of the United States, who's 74 years old now, obviously you and I understand what's probably going on behind the scenes right now, and it's not what
Yeah,
everyone thinks it is, but to the common masses out there who are watching mainstream medicine or just patriot, whether they're liberal mainstream people or they're Republican mainstream people or they're patriots who understand the whole thing is a sham, but they still think he got sick.
yeah,
What do they do if he walks out only a few days later after saying he's 74 years old, he flies, he's stressed, he's like running the
right.
country, running the world? What happens to this narrative when he
Oh,
walks out? He never got a vaccine. He might have got a medication here or there, but he also took a cocktail of nutrition or at least vitamins and minerals. They may not be whole food, but at least there's something that would have
yeah.
helped his body fight up. What happens, Doc, at that point?
Oh, I mean, this is where I think we're in it. This is why I know the time is close because the entire CDC and FDA narrative gets flushed down the toilet. Again, it's either okay. So I mean, he's disproving everything.
He's disproving their whole party line. He's disproving Fauci and the CDC vaccine narrative.
Because my kid, if they get a fever, they can't go to school for 14 days. He's 74, more stressed than any human on the planet, and he's going to walk out of there in 3 or 4 days and then be like, yep, it's done. I got cured. Yep. Oh, it's going to be, and this is where I think it's going to be press conference. And this is where I think at some point the dissonance is going to be so high on the other side that it's going to explode. I can't even imagine. I have no idea what they're planning, but it's got to be big and it's got to be soon, because essentially even Trump supporters, some of them are going to be like, wait a second.
Right.
What the hell have I been doing for the last year?
Right. This has taken up 7+ months, man.
Yeah, this has been, and this goes into, the whole, when I say it was a hoax and it was a farce, I'm not saying that people didn't die of that virus. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it's. I've looked at the numbers. The CDC website has the numbers, so this is not a hard dive. You go to the CDC website, you just have to find their PDF files, not just the stuff that's posted, and they have about 9,000 deaths reported. Right. That's about it.
Non-comorbidity that are just actually viral related.
Yep. So the rest of them were, all the doctors were instructed to report CV as an illness or as a cause of death. They were first time in history to change the death certificates to that if they even came in contact with someone. It is a complete farce. So yeah, we shut it down we shut it down to win the battle, but there is no pandemic right now. There's not one. And right now
even Ron Paul on camera said it's over.
Yeah, and right now we have a pandemic like you see coming out of Germany of kids dying because of wearing masks and rebreathing CO2 and rebreathing fungus and bacteria that grow in your mask. So right now we have a pandemic of people that are walking around acidotic, because that's what happens when you rebreathe your own air. So we're going to see cancers, we're going to see disease spikes, we're going to see all sorts of bad crap this winter, but it's not going to be from that. It's going to be from side effects of wearing masks all day. These poor people that are told to wear masks all day, and the lawsuits and the class action lawsuits against all these companies that said you have to wear a mask or you can't feed your kids. That's where I personally think the money comes from. I think we're all owed, anyone that was ever told, anyone that had to alter their life because of this is owed a lot of money.
I would agree.
Right?
Before we head out,
this
is my fun question for you. What do you see happening? What do you think is going to happen through the election? And then what do you think the storm is, just for fun?
Yeah. This is part of this. The fun part is you just got to think about what's on your heart and mind. And sometimes this information just comes to people. I don't think this is going to go to the election. I think something happens before the election. I have a feeling I've seen a lot of weird stuff with the Chinese immigrants coming into the border, Chinese military in Canada, missile tests towards Guam. I think there's got to be an event that creates a lockdown. It's not going to be illness. I think personally that's got to happen. Oh man, I mean, I've been wrong before, but I feel like it has to happen within the next week. And then I think that the reveals happen. What I think doesn't happen is like what some of the Anons feel like it's just going to be this 24/7 blow your mind reveal session. I think if you do that, there's going to be people committing suicide.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think the reveals are going to be less than some of us want, but I still think just 10 arrests would be enough.
Yeah, you only necessarily need the big ones, and as long as we see enough change, I think that something actually occurred. And I agree. Do I like the idea personally of like, a 24-hour channel showing everything that happened? Me being down the rabbit hole, probably you as well would probably want to see some of that, but you could not take the average little 60 to 90-year-old old lady who is probably a Catholic and is believed in the system. If you expose them to that, I don't think people truly understand the mental aspect of life sometimes, and that would literally kill people. And we can't have that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to need a couple of years to roll out the whole Catholic Church.
Right.
That the Pope is a satanic child-eating Satanist. I mean, that's, you can't just throw that at people. So,
right.
so I think it's going to happen before the election. I don't see how that I'll be very surprised if we can go on.
No, you have to have a gigantic boom before the election, and to make it obviously sway in his way to get the actual vote. Do you see some sort of planetary storm happening in the December, which is what we're hearing from a lot of people?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of information on that. I like to think of things as, I think they're balancing things. So everything that bad comes out, you get a positive. So, the whole, if a lot of bad stuff comes out, I'm expecting Junior to come on the scene at some point. If a lot of bad stuff, maybe if a really lot of bad stuff comes out, we have this solar, storm, or this big bright light, something that unifies the entire world, and say, hey guys, wait, there's something bigger than this too.
Right.
Remember. So yeah, I could see it. It seems like most things are pointing towards that.
Beautiful. Well, I appreciate you, man. Can you do me a favor and let everyone know where to find you, where to find the book, all this good stuff, so they can read your journey? And truly, people, I want you to read this book because it goes into a lot of his personal story, and it could be a very big growth vehicle for a lot of people out there. But Doc, let them know where they can find you in the book.
Yeah, so I wrote this book. I self-published it on Amazon. So you have to go to Amazon, just search Dr. Q, Eyes Wide Open. Sometimes you have to put paperback in there because they're making it hard for people to find. And order it on Amazon. And I'll have, I'm doing an audio pretty soon. So we'll have some links, and I'll send you the links, as we might do the audio separate from Amazon.
Okay.
And then just look out for me. My personal hope and my personal dream is that I feel safe enough in the next 3 to 6 months that I start doing speaking engagements and just blowing it all open, just taking it down.
Well, and what's your Twitter handle?
My Twitter handle is Dig Warrior for Kids. So DIG Warrior for Kids.
Okay, we'll drop that link in there. Excellent. Well, Doc, I appreciate everything about you and what you're doing. It takes guts, even just with your voice. It takes guts to expose this stuff in the world that you're in. So as we go through this, man, you're a colleague to these natural people out here who know what's going on, and we love our MDs. We love the ones who are waking up. And so I appreciate all you're doing. You are a patriot and you are a warrior. Much appreciation for all your work, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for what you guys do, man. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for people like you and Jason Q.
Yeah, thank you, man. You as well. I mean, this is your next journey, and to wake everyone up. And man, you've been called, and we appreciate you stepping up to the call. And everyone, go out there. Definitely share this video out there. Definitely share the book for all your friends out there. And if you have somebody out there who is struggling in the medication world, and you want them to get healthy, and they're really struggling, or they're going down that route, or they're looking into surgery, or whatever it is, get the book to them, because you don't know, you could change a life. And it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to come off all medications, but you could stop them from going down that one path that takes them down the medical hole that they never come back from. So let them know about it.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. It's absolutely, it might, if anything, it might make them start questioning. And that's the first step. Question everything. Question your doctors.
Awesome. For Dr. Q, this is Dr. Jason Dean, Revolution Network, on a Monday afternoon. I will be live tonight at 9:30. We'll see you all there. And again, thank you to Dr. Q for being a noble patriot, a warrior who is stepping up to the plan and waking up the masses to what is going on, so we can restore the republic but also restore our planet. Have an amazing day.
All right.